incumbent Muse Bihi Abdi. Somaliland declared independence from Somalia in 1991 but lacks international recognition. It is considered territory of Somalia. President-elect Cirro and President Muse Bihi Abdi differ on domestic issues, but both support Somaliland's plight to be recognized as an independent nation. A recent memorandum of understanding with landlocked Ethiopia might help Somaliland gain recognition in exchange for providing Addis Ababa access to its port in the Gulf of Aden. This memorandum of understanding enraged the government in Mogadishu, causing tensions in the Horn of Africa. What will it take for the situation to de-escalate? Straight Talk Africa starts right now. Welcome to Straight Talk Africa, coming to you from the Voice of America headquarters in Washington, D.C. I'm your host, Peter Clottey. Diplomatic tensions are rising between Somalia and Ethiopia over Somaliland, an unrecognized breakaway region of Somalia that seceded 33 years ago and has since pursued to be recognized as an independent country. This time, it might be closer to its pursuit than ever, but it's also creating tensions that might threaten regional stability in Africa. To help us better understand the situation, I'm joined by my colleague Harun Maruf. Harun is the acting chief of VOA Horn of Africa Service and has been covering the region for decades. How are you, Harun?
Thank you, Peter. I'm good. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. So, what is the latest development following the conclusion of the just ended elections in Somaliland?
The election was very successful for Somaliland. It was hailed peacefully by the international observers. Locally, the Electoral Commission hailed it, announced the result that the opposition leader, Abdirahman Cirro, won. It was a thumping victory for him, almost twice more votes than the incumbent. The incumbent spoke today. He conceded defeat. He congratulated his opponent. He said he promised he's going to conduct a peaceful, smooth transition. He's not going to go back on his word. During the campaign, he promised he's going to honor the result. He's going to follow that suit. He promised it. The inauguration will take place on December 13th. The winner, President-elect Abdirahman Cirro, spoke. He also thanked the president for conducting this election. So far, so good. Very good news for Somaliland.
Following the election, do you think the new president has a huge mandate to govern on behalf of the people, looking at the outcome of the election?
He has a huge mandate. He got a lot of votes and support. It's not only his victory, also his political party won. There was another election that was also taking place, not the presidential election, but the political parties election, which three parties will come on top to be the official three political parties in Somaliland for the next 10 years. So he won as presidential candidate. His political party, Wadani, also won, came on top. Another new organization came second, and the president, the incumbent president, his political party came third. So he has a huge mandate, but whether he will govern it as the winner, as a president who was given a huge mandate by the public, or whether he will govern on a consensus and reach out to all the sides, that's a question for him, and we will see in the coming weeks.
Well, Harun, there were a little controversy about whether the elections were held in all the regions of Somaliland. What are the facts on the ground?
The election was held in all the 6 regions of Somaliland. Based on the account that the Electoral Commission gave, there were 3 districts that the election did not take place, and this is due to insecurity conflict. If you remember, in 2022 December, a conflict broke out in the town of Las Anod. That conflict has been dragging on for months. It has come to conclusion sometime mid 2023. It was very bitter conflict. The people who were fighting against Somaliland forces were campaigning and advocating for unity with the rest of Somalia. They control the town of Las Anod and the surrounding areas now. So in those areas of traditionally part of Somaliland, the election did not take place. But that doesn't take away from also the other regions of Somaliland, where the elections took place peacefully.
What do you think the outcome of the election mean for the region? What impact do you think it will have?
Somaliland was always seen as a peaceful, democratic piece of area in the Horn of Africa region. And Horn of Africa was largely unstable, and instability in Somalia, now in Ethiopia, in northeastern Kenya, where Al-Shabaab was carrying out attacks. Also diplomatic differences between Ethiopia and Egypt over the Nile water river. So very uncertain region. Somaliland in January, as you know, signed a memorandum of understanding with Ethiopia. That has created another tension in the region. Ethiopia congratulated the new president and the Electoral Commission in Somaliland. The president of Somalia also congratulated. So Somaliland now has a new president. So this is an opportunity for all the regional powers really to shape up the future of having relations with Somaliland. So the Somali government would want to reopen dialogue and negotiations with Somaliland so that they come to an agreement. The president of Somalia was saying yesterday that he looks forward to conclusion of the dialogue between the two sides in the context of reconciliation and unity. Will Somaliland reciprocate that? And the new president, that there's a question mark there. Ethiopia would obviously wanted to implement the MOU it signed with Somaliland. The opposition, now the incumbent, the president-elect, said they haven't seen that MOU. Will they implement, or will they renegotiate, or will they completely cancel it? That's also another question that needs to be answered.
But what has the new president said about engaging the neighbors in dialogue, whether he will embrace the new MOU signed between Somaliland and Ethiopia? And I know they differ, the outgoing president and the incoming president differ politically, but they all want to pursue international recognition for Somaliland. What's your take?
My take is that Somaliland, first of all, the president-elect kept it to himself, and he did not say a lot about the MOU during the campaigning. And I think he didn't want any distraction from the election. He wanted to win the election first. I believe that he was asked initially when the MOU was signed, and he said, we like what we hear, but there are question marks, and we want more clarification. I believe that is still his position. He hasn't said a lot. He usually keeps things to himself, but now he's the president, so he will say a lot. I believe Somaliland will pursue effort to get recognition. Will that go through Ethiopia or through Somalia or through other channels? That remains to be seen. Will other major powers outside the region come and recognize Somaliland, or one way or the other? That's also another question.
Before you go, what are your expectations of the new coming president?
The incumbent president has been in politics for a long time. He was a speaker of the Somaliland parliament for a long time. He's a presidential candidate, not the party leader now of his political party. I don't know him in person. I tried to reach out to him since yesterday to get his views on these political points, as well his views on the MOU and other key issues. He hasn't said that a lot about it. He was campaigning. I think his views will come out very clear in the coming days and ahead, and it would be good to wait what he says rather than speculate.
Thank you very much, Harun. We have to leave it here. Harun Maruf, Acting Chief of VOA's Horn of Africa Service. It's time now for a short break. When we return, we'll discuss the Somaliland elections and how the outcome might affect the balance of power in the Horn of Africa. Stay with us.
In times of change, when the world seems uncertain and what we hear doesn't reflect what we see. We seek the truth. When we are told only part of the story, we lose trust. In moments of crisis, our dreams, hopes, and wishes for a better tomorrow depends on a free press. At Voice of America, we bring you the stories that people take risks to see. We connect the world and unite it with truth. At Voice of America, we show you the whole picture.
Health, wellness, sport, beauty, medical breakthroughs. Healthy Living cares about your well-being. What are the main health concerns in Africa and around the world? Find out the latest on coronavirus. Connect with our experts and ask them questions.
How long does the virus stay?
Join me, Lino Khmoudou, in Washington, every week on Healthy Living, right here on VOA.
Despite the immense spending power of Black consumers in the 60 billion beauty industry, they remain largely underserved by a market that is slow to reflect their needs and desires. In fact, Black consumers are 3 times more likely to be dissatisfied with their options for hair care, skin care, and makeup compared to non-Black consumers. On this week's edition of Our Voices, we'll explore the world of Black beauty through the lens of cosmetic entrepreneurs and discuss the challenges faced by consumers with darker skin tones in the beauty industry. Join the conversation each week right here on Our Voices.
Welcome back. You are with Straight Talk Africa. We are discussing the Somaliland elections and how their outcome might affect the balance of powers in the Horn of Africa. Somaliland is a region of Somalia that succeeded in 1991 and has since sought international recognition that it has not received. But a recent memorandum of understanding with Ethiopia might make this possible. The MOU is causing a diplomatic fallout between Somalia and Ethiopia. For more insight into this complex situation, I'm joined by Guleid Ahmed Jama. He's a lawyer and political analyst based in Hargeisa, Somaliland. And from Sheffield, United Kingdom, I'm joined by Abdi Fattah Tahir, who is a research fellow at the Department of Urban Studies and Planning of the University of Sheffield. Gentlemen, welcome to Straight Talk Africa.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, so let me come to you in Hargeisa. Looking at the outcome of the elections, do you think the incoming president has the mandate of the people to govern as he promised?
The people gave him a very big mandate. He won in a landslide election, so that is a clear mandate. How he uses it, up to him. I think people are expecting him to be different from his predecessor. They're expecting him to be unifier and to address the economic issues, peace and security, but also to act more presidential and his actions to be predicted. He's also expected to be a person who shares power with others, with the parliament, who respects the judiciary. So the promises he made were very clear. The people accepted that and gave him the mandate, so he has to use it.
Well, let me come to you, Mr. Tahir. What do you think went wrong for the outgoing president?
I think a number of things went wrong with the way he governed the country, one of which is that he kind of came across as a very divisive figure who kind of not considers that Somaliland is a fragile country which needs a lot of care to be exercised when governing the country, and for that reason, a conflict erupted in the eastern regions of the country. there were also some demonstrations and quite a lot of dissatisfaction in the capital and the other cities in the country. So I think the most important thing that went wrong with him was that he came across as a very divisive figure.
Let me come to you, Guleid Ahmed Jama. Do you think the outcome of the election could help ease tensions in the region, particularly with Somalia and Ethiopia?
I think it will. For one reason is, as Abdel Fattah said, his predecessor was very aggressive and divisive figure, not only domestically but also internationally. So his foreign relations, diplomatic relations, were not mostly pursued on the traditional diplomatic system and channels. The upcoming president, the president-elect, was a former diplomat himself. He was a speaker of the parliament for a long time. I think if he uses these skills, he will be positioned in a better position to ease tensions. He promises that he will talk to Somalia, but I think most of his priorities will be domestic. But I think his personality and his experience fit to ease the tension in the region and to face a new phase of Somaliland's diplomatic affairs.
Well, Tahir, what do you make of it? Do you think it will ease tensions in the region?
Yeah, I completely agree with Guleid regarding the way he will probably deal with countries in the region, one of which is Ethiopia. But I think the issue of Ethiopia is very delicate in the sense that you have a neighbor which is more powerful than Somaliland, and which remains to be the only outlet through which Somaliland kind of conducts its diplomatic relations with the rest of the world, as well as the fact that quite a lot of travel goes through Ethiopia when Somaliland is connected with the rest of the world. So given that Ethiopia is positioned in such a precarious position in the region, also an important one, and given the fact that the African Union is based in there, I think he will have to, at one point or another, kind of speak to Ethiopia, but I think he will delay the issue of the recognition until he consolidates the power in Somaliland to allow him to kind of have a clear position regarding that.
But do you think the election will raise the profile of Somaliland in its pursuit of international recognition?
My take on that is that the two are mutually exclusive, in the sense that Somaliland has conducted several successful elections in the region. It performs quite a lot better than most of the countries in the region, let alone Somalia, which remains to be still bogged down in the indirect elections that was conceived about 10 and more years ago. So I think, yes, it will win it more sympathies from countries, but as far as recognition is concerned, I don't think whether this will be any different from the previous elections that it has successfully conducted.
Well, Ahmed Jama, but do you think the incoming president will take a different route in the common pursuit of international recognition for Somaliland?
I think he wouldn't change the course of actions, but I think his skills and his approach will be different. As I said, his predecessor were more aggressive, and his diplomacy was mostly public in conferences, press conferences, and statements. So I think these presidents will use traditional diplomatic means to pursue recognition. Not only recognition, but I think one of the things Somaliland is in need is a better international relation with the rest of the world in terms of trade, in terms of movements of people, which was severely damaged in the last 2 or so years. So Somaliland is international engagement and non-necessary recognition by se need to be improved. The neighboring countries are in a very difficult conflict, which complicates Somaliland's situation, because Somaliland wants to have a better relations with both Ethiopia and Djibouti. It doesn't want to upset anybody, but it seems the MOU has created a very difficult situation for Somaliland to navigate. So it will not be easy for the incoming president, but I think he has to change his approach. He has to be more diplomatic, but also more predictable, as I said, of what he will do. And the reason I'm saying more predictable is that the MOU was a bombshell. Nobody knew about it, and I think that's one of the reasons it caused most of the drama.
But do you think the memorandum of understanding between Somaliland and Ethiopia, which was signed, Ahmed Jama, do you think the incoming president will embrace it as it is, in spite of the fact that he might want to take a different approach?
I think the Somaliland cannot accept Ethiopia, but I think he will not necessarily take it as it is. Nobody saw it. The incoming president didn't see it. Nobody else saw it except the president. So it will be very difficult to speculate whether he will reject it outrightly or whether he will accept or renegotiate. I think it will depend on the content of the MOU, as he said. But I think the bottom line is that he will pursue to continue the relations between Somaliland and Ethiopia. But maybe he will be able to be in a better position to negotiate. The reason I'm saying so is when Somaliland concluded this memorandum of understanding, that was the last year of the sitting president. He was not in a strong position to negotiate, but the incoming president has a better mandate and can negotiate with Ethiopia.
Abdel Fattah Tahir, do you think he would have to renegotiate the MOU since it's one of the first steps for international recognition?
Since the contents are not yet known to him, I agree with Guleid that the president needs to study what is in the MOU, and if it's kind of the information coming out from it is the same as the one we had before, I think it's highly likely that he either renegotiates the terms, which I think Ethiopians will not accept, in the sense that the most important thing in the MOU is that Ethiopia has an armed presence in Somaliland, which will negatively affect the way in which the region, as we know it today, functions and exists. So I think it will create more problems for him than already said, and he has to exercise a lot of care regarding how to deal with the new arrangements that Somaliland may have with Ethiopia.
Well, but Abdel Tahir, one of the things Ethiopia is looking for is access to the Gulf of Aden or to the sea. Now, Djibouti's foreign minister, the last time I spoke with him in September, said the offer to Ethiopia to have access to the sea is still on the table. They are just waiting for Ethiopia to take it up. Do you think that could be part of his thinking in his new approach to re-engaging and having constructive dialogue in the region to ease political tensions?
We need to remember that Ethiopia had an unimpeded kind of commercial access to both Somaliland and Djibouti. So the issue is not about access to, as far as commercial is concerned, as Djibouti is suggesting. It is an armed presence, and I think no country in the region would allow Ethiopia to have, which has a massive army, to have an armed presence in their country, because they fear for their own sovereignty. Anything can happen between two countries. So if you have a massive armed forces of another country in your country, that kind of heightens the risk at which your country is facing. So for that reason, I think what Ethiopia is looking for in the region is highly unlikely to be gotten from any country in the region. And Somaliland, which still remains part of Somalia, is one of the reasons why Ethiopia wants Somaliland, is that it's a region which has not yet attained recognition or legal mandate, and it wants to kind of opportunistically exploit that. So I think it will be very difficult sell, even for the new president, to come up with a proposal that allows Ethiopia to have an armed presence in the region.
Ahmed Jama, what are your thoughts?
I think the recognition is very important and top priority for Somaliland, and if it can secure recognition for Ethiopia, I think most Somalilanders will support that. But as already being said, some call it this as a memorandum of misunderstanding, because the statements coming from Addis Ababa and Hargeisa were very different. So as far as we don't know the content of the memorandum of understanding, I think we'll be in a very difficult situation to say what will happen next. But I think one important thing here is that Somaliland needs to access the economy of Ethiopia, because Ethiopia is very big population, Somaliland is very small, so Somaliland is in a better position to be able to give Ethiopia access it needs so that it can have commercial benefits, but also to get Ethiopia's recognition. So there are a lot of Somaliland can gain from the memorandum of understanding. What is very important here is only about the sovereign rights Ethiopia might or might not have on our seas. I think that is the controversial aspect of the MOU, but anything that is related to the recognition, commercial access, are all highly welcomed in Somaliland.
Well, Ahmed Jama, do you think renewed engagement between Hargeisa and Mogadishu could also help ease the tension between the two, and by extension help ease tensions in the region?
I think Somalia also needs to reassess its position, because it has been very aggressive these days, and I think that aggressive tone wouldn't help the incoming president negotiate with Mogadishu. So when we want to talk about the issue of calming the situation, I think it needs to be mutual. It will be coming from Mogadishu, but also Somaliland and Ethiopia. The region needs to talk to each other in dialogue rather than use other forms in order to intimidate each other. The region is already in a very troubled situation. War is in Ethiopia, in Somalia, Sudan. So peaceful negotiations and peaceful conflict resolution, I think, is very paramount for all the sides. But it should be coming from all the sides, not only one side.
Abdi Fattah Tahir, what are your expectations of the incoming president in terms of his new approach to re-engagement and constructive dialogue to ease political tension in the region?
I think, given the fact that he served as a diplomat in a very important country, the Soviet Union, which is one of the most powerful countries in the world, at the time, he is expected to have had a lot of experience regarding, how diplomacy is conducted in conditions of fragility, and I believe he's well suited among the candidates to address or at least speak to the important issues in the region in a very cooler manner than his predecessor. So I think the take he will the course he will pursue is more would be more constructive than his predecessor.
Well, Guleid Jama, what are your thoughts? What are your expectations of the new coming administration following the mandate he got after the elections?
This is a very big mandate. If he doesn't use it correctly, I think that will be a very big mistake. The people of Somaliland in all the corners of the country has given him a mandate to rule, and I think he has to use that. But I think the priority in his administration should be domestic. Somaliland is divided, the economy is very weak, and there is insecurity in some parts of the region of Somaliland, so that should be the top of his priority. But when it comes to the regional and international affairs, I think he needs to be calm and be able to retain the diplomatic engagement of Somaliland.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jama. We have to leave it here. Thank you both for the thought-provoking discussion. We appreciate your time. Guleid Ahmed Jama is a lawyer and political analyst, and Abdi Fattah Tahir is a research fellow at the Department of Urban Studies and Planning at the University of Sheffield. Thanks to our affiliate stations for broadcasting Straight Talk Africa across the continent.